guys, it's Michelle, and today's video is going to be yet another TikTok conspiracy theories video for you guys. I haven't done one of these in a while. For some reason, I guess I just thought you guys would like better me looking at scary TikToks, but I've been getting a lot of comments saying that you guys miss the OG TikTok conspiracies, so let's get into it. First TikTok I saw is kind of like a dumb one in my opinion, but I think it's like really funny because I kind of believe it. This man is showing a viral video about how this other man found a mosquito with the number 38 on it. It's really odd. You can clearly see that the number is there. But what's even weirder is that a few days later, the man saw another mosquito with a number on it as well. A lot of people go into the theory about pigeons and that pigeons are secretly not real things and they're used as government spies. I don't believe that's true, but I do believe a theory that I would say is a little out there even for me to believe. It kind of makes sense if you think about it. I have talked about before medical industry conspiracy theories surrounding like big pharma, just various pharmaceutical companies having, you know, the proper medication or treatment to treat certain diseases like cancer, certain types of cancer. Obviously there's not just one cure for cancer, but I'm sure that there is lots more cures than what the industry is willing to talk about, because at the end of the day, sick people make them more money, and that's the truth. It's a very terrifying truth, but nonetheless, it is true. So a theory that I actually think is interesting is to go into the idea that mosquitoes are essentially flying syringes. Like if they have some type of venom in them, it can expose so many humans to that poison easily. Mosquitoes are almost like uncontrollable. So I think it's an interesting theory. I'm not saying I believe it, but I will say it is an interesting concept. And if the world is as truly fucked up as we think it is, maybe it's true that there is some type of disease that they are putting in, or chemicals or something that they are putting into mosquitoes to make us sick. I don't know, or perhaps it just could have been some weird science experiment. I don't know, but also I don't even know how you would get a number imprinted on a bug like that. To me, that's the weird part. Although I think it's interesting, I don't know what the purpose would be, and that's kind of the scary point of it. Obviously, there's many conspiracy theories about like chemtrails, allegedly getting us sick conspiracy-wise. But it's kind of interesting because I feel like this would be a way more effective way to get people sick than chemtrails. But I'm not saying that I believe it's true. You know what I mean? I'm just saying I think it's a little bit more logical than the chemtrails and 5G. But I would love to hear your guys' opinions because I'm not sure. All right, the next TikTok conspiracy theory we're gonna be talking about has to do with Kim and Kourtney Kardashian. I feel like you guys get it too though, because why am I so interested in the Kardashians? I really am though. I think that it's such an interesting dynamic. It's such an interesting family. I like hearing the conspiracy theories about them. I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of my guilty pleasure. I enjoy it. And I think you guys really do too, because anytime I talk about the Kardashians in videos, like you guys always comment that you want more Kardashian conspiracy theories. So we got some for you. So a TikTok was posted showing a Dumois blind item. It said, quote, "Two sisters of this iconic," note how iconic is spelled with 2 Ks, "family are not even in contact with each other anymore. You may see them in pictures, but it is purely for show. A reconciliation is highly unlikely. The older one has basically confirmed the falling out as well." This was the only thing that I don't think makes sense, is because none of the Kardashians have confirmed a falling out. But the rest of it, I could see happening. People really believe that these two sisters who are fighting from the Kardashian family are Kim and Kourtney. Obviously, we see Kim and Kourtney have the most fights on their show. They're always on speaking terms though. Like they're never not talking to each other. So we're gonna talk about that in a bit. But first I wanna say that I think I would personally be pretty shocked if any of the Kardashians were not on speaking terms. I mean, for God's sakes, all of the ex-husbands, boyfriends, whatever, are still part of the family today. God to say, still invited to all of the family gatherings. I mean, obviously his kids are with Kourtney, but still. So on the show, we have seen, like I said, Kim and Kourtney go at it. Many of the sisters in general have all had their fair share of fights, but it usually is Kim and Kourtney. At the end of the day, they always come back to this family dynamic that I feel like is very sought after and kind of what holds the Kardashians together in a way. Like I think that that's what makes it so interesting to watch. We all have our family dynamics with our friends and family, and we see that with the Kardashians, and it makes it all feel very like natural, which sounds weird to describe that show. It's just an aspect of it that makes it feel more real and relatable, I guess. You see Kim and Kourtney have explosive fights time after time, but then they always come back to this like mutual understanding that they're sisters and they love each other no matter what. I feel like that definitely is the most interesting part of the Kardashians, is that after all that they've done and like the careers that they've made for themselves, they still come back to this like familial bond that is like unbreakable, it seems. I think that if this is true, I will say, if you live in LA, from my experience when I moved to LA, you find out more things about celebrities. Like, that's a real truth. Like, a lot of people say that and they're like, oh, you find out, you always hear tea about celebrities. And I'm always like, how do you just hear things? Because it's not like I'm friends with celebrities. But you do. It's really weird. I could definitely see some people hearing about Kim and Kourtney not being on speaking terms. However, I do not think that the show will ever show that. I think that they would show that they would get in a fight, but if they're genuinely not speaking to each other, which would shock me because obviously we've seen their kids hang out. At the end of the day, like, they probably wouldn't want to get the kids involved anyway. It's not like they're gonna stop their cousins from seeing each other. But something really crazy I feel like would have had to happen between Kim and Kourtney for them to not be on speaking terms. Some people think that the fight is between Kylie and Kim or Kylie and Kourtney, but to me, Kim and Kourtney seems the most likely just because of their past drama that they've had together. I don't know. I do think that it's interesting because I will say something I feel like has been off lately. Even at like the Christmas party, I feel like they were all posting, but they weren't really posting with each other so much. Even this picture was completely edited of all of them from different times taking the picture to be in one photo. Something seems off in my opinion, but I don't know what it is. I hate that I'm so interested and I just spent the last 5 minutes talking about it, but I do find it interesting. To me, it's the family dynamic that's so interesting because I actually believe that if this were to be true, which blind items we're going to talk about in a second, but if it were to be true, or if someone were to have actually heard that and they actually are not on speaking terms, I would be shocked if they did show that on the show. I think they will make it look nothing happened on the show because as much as it's interesting, I feel like it takes away from like that not perfect family dynamic, but at the end of the day, they still love each other and they still have each other no matter what vibe. Like, I feel like it takes that away and I don't think they would show it. Speaking of blind items, I find them very interesting because I will say, with a lot of conspiracy theories, tea about celebrities, there's usually a nugget of truth somewhere in these conspiracy theories or blind items. I would say I'm never sure 100%, and if it's like 100% true or the way that people think it, usually, like I said, a nugget of truth. So I do believe that probably something weird is going down, but I don't know what it is. But I would like to hear your opinions on it. I don't know, this just turned into a drama channel, but I just think the Kardashians are interesting. Speaking of the Kardashians, there's this whole TikTok user who makes all Kardashian like theories videos, and I think they are so interesting. The way that the show works is very interesting. The way that they've been able to keep audiences entertained for so many years, I just find it fascinating. This TikTok user posts a very interesting theory about the intriguing new stranger. Kardashians have followed this kind of pattern that I personally have never noticed until I saw this TikTok point it out, specifically with Addison Rae. In 2020, Kourtney Kardashian began posting a lot of pictures with Addison. This got a lot of people, you know, confused as to what the hell was going on. Like, what is this friendship? What's the vibe? What's happening? And then just a few months later, Addison is on an episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians. So obviously it just works out in the perfect way where the media has this little like nugget of information. Addison Rae and Kourtney Kardashian are somehow friends and no one understands it, are watching it sort of unfold publicly, but we don't know like the true behind the scenes info on it. And then bam, an episode comes out explaining it. And also what I think is interesting is I feel like what we think of when, you know, this happens is we like to hear the other people's opinions in the family about this relationship or friendship or whatever the case may be. For example, with Addison and Kourtney, I feel like I knew immediately that the sisters would think that it was a little bit weird, kind of random, and you wouldn't think that they would end up being friends, which a lot of people commented on this actual conspiracy video and said, well, why wouldn't they just have Kylie become friends with Addison if they wanted to have the intriguing new stranger? And to that, I'm like, obviously that is way less intriguing because I feel like Kylie and Addison being friends makes way more sense. the fact that it's Courtney is like very random. Vloggers like David Dobrik or whoever you want to talk about who make these, you know, grand videos where you get to a point where you're making stuff around the video, in the sense of you're doing things around the video, like you're doing this because of the video, because of the show, and it makes you wonder like where that line, you know, falls between reality, staged like performance essentially. And I think having a reality show would very much blur that line and make you do things that you probably wouldn't normally do just to have content, which I guess seems obvious, but it also is pretty crazy if you think about it. It just makes you wonder if, like, as, you know, they're getting into relationships or into friendships, if their mind goes to places like, okay, this would be good for the show. Like, the people are gonna love that I'm dating Pete Davidson. Like, that's crazy. I don't know. It's a very, very interesting concept that I wanted to talk about because I really want to hear your thoughts on it. Okay, so the next TikTok conspiracy theory is about Elf on the Shelf. So this girl has a master's in folklore, which I think is so cool and super interesting. And she goes into a theory about Elf on the Shelf. Check it out.
On the mother forking shelf. I'm Piper. I have a master's in folklore. The item A for aforementioned masters. So you know what Elf on the Shelf is, right? This little freak. I was really suspicious of Elf on the Shelf, and I had some really nefarious theories before I looked into him. So the general idea is Elf on the Shelf is supposed to be Santa's little helper, and he lives in your house and then reports back to Santa to let Santa know if your kid was good or bad. And then parents get inventive and put their elf in all sorts of different positions and stuff. But this elf showed up in 2005 acting like he had always existed, right? I remember seeing him in Target going, what is this? And it says on the box, a Christmas tradition. Okay, first I'm going to introduce you to two concepts. Stick with me. Egregore I mentioned in my Santa video. Tulpa might be one that you know. Tulpa is a figment, a creature, a creation made from the consciousness of one. And egregore is from the belief or consciousness of many. In my argument that Santa was an egregore, it's the belief of everyone turning him into this powerful deity that he's become, where he can be everywhere in one night. He knows you're good and bad and evil. Now, Elf on the Shelf could go a very dry academic route. There's this section of folklore called material culture. I'm not going to do that. We're going to do the fairy route. This is Elf on the Shelf author Shonda A. Bell. And in this TED Talk, I will present to you that she traded with a fae. She could get fame, fortune, and riches in exchange for this fae getting power and belief. Shonda, if you're watching this, you said this. You say this on your website. She wrote Elf on the Shelf based on an elf from her own childhood. She said, I'm going to self-publish this book. I need it to be successful. I need you to take care of me. And he said, I got you. Nowhere does it say based on a toy elf or based on an idea of an elf or a picture, based on an elf in her childhood. That's her own words. If I were going to make a pact with the fae, I would want it to be mutually beneficial. I would say, hey, I want to be successful beyond my wildest imagination. I don't know, maybe sell 13 million elves over the next few years. And then the fae would say, great, I'll do that for you. I'll make that happen. I'll pull those strings in exchange. I want to be in everyone's home and at the forefront of their beliefs. I want to be a part of Christmas. In the Krampus video, we also talked about how Krampus was a pagan deity long before Christmas, but he dug his claws into Christmas and held on for dear life, and that helped him survive because Christmas is an ongoing holiday. Even when Christian washes other holidays, they can keep going. Do I think the Elf on the Shelf is bad or dangerous? No, but I do think he's accruing power very successfully and at an exponential rate. I think that this fae and Shonda are in cahoots, and they are in successful cahoots. It's a fun tradition, but I don't have an Elf on the Shelf. Merry Christmas. Don't let the fae in your home.
Okay, so this theory low-key freaked me out because I feel like I have been thinking this for so many years that Elf on a Shelf is creepy as fuck. I never liked his vibe. He just has something behind the eyes and it really freaks me out. So it's like the idea that like the writer of this book deal with the fae to basically become rich and famous, because obviously if she wrote Elf on the Shelf, she's popping off now. I don't know, I guess, the logistics behind fairies and folklore in general, but I do always think that it's an interesting concept because I feel like, again, with going back to like the celebrity conspiracy theories, which is kind of stupid to compare the two, but I feel like every time there's a story, it has a nugget of truth. So I think that there is somewhat of a nugget of truth with folklore. I've been saying this forever with mermaids, with aliens, with fairies, everything. There has to be some truth behind it in a weird sense, and I don't know what it is, but The elf on the shelf, I will say, I feel like has a negative energy. I have always felt that, which is weird because I don't really feel compelled to feel like that about objects, especially like dolls and stuff. Like even when people say dolls are haunted, they rarely actually freak me out. Like I wouldn't touch one, like a haunted doll. Like I wouldn't hang out with it. I wouldn't keep it in my home. But they don't freak me out as much as the freaking elf on the shelf. I don't know why. That shit has been scaring me since 2005. I've never done that. No, me and my family never participated in that. I would like to hear your theories on it. Obviously, this is a Christmas theory and Christmas is sadly over. However, it is Christmas in my head 24/7. Like actually, I'm looking at tinsel right now. It's always Christmas. So the next theory, it has to do with Home Alone. The Jumpers Jump Boys posted a TikTok about this Home Alone conspiracy theory that I found very interesting. The theory basically goes that Kevin McAllister was left at home alone on purpose. Theory goes that Kevin's dad, Peter McAllister, actually was in serious debt and he couldn't afford his house any longer. So he knew that he had to leave behind Kevin because he's the runt of the family and he would be the least likely that someone would notice that he was missing. Which is kind of sad. I mean, it's true though at the end of the day. They didn't notice till they were on the way to Paris. Theory goes that Peter McAllister hired Harry and Marv to rob their home and kill Kevin so that the dad can claim life insurance on Kevin, but also insurance on everything stolen. This theory is an interesting idea, although I think that what would be a little bit more realistic if Peter McAllister had seen Harry and Marv around in some way, like maybe he saw them break into the neighbor's house and just noticed that they were up to no good or that there were robberies in the area in general and he wasn't sure who was doing it. That is why he left Kevin at home, hoping that Kevin would get murdered by these robbers and then that the robbers would steal all of their stuff so that he can claim insurance on not only Kevin's life, but what the robbers stole. And that way Peter McAllister leaves the scene with no blood on his hands. Obviously, Peter McAllister very much underestimated his son's abilities because he was able to knock those bitches out. I will say something that I always thought was strange in Home Alone is like when they noticed that it was just a kid who was at home with this giant house, like why did they still rob the house? Like that never made sense to me. Why were they planning on killing Kevin? I feel like multiple times. Nonetheless, I kind of feel like this theory could be a little bit true. I don't know. I think it's a little dark, obviously a little childhood ruining, but I do think that it is kind of an interesting theory. All right, so the last TikTok conspiracy theory that I find to be very, very interesting is this TikTok user posted a series of tweets that I guess she found interesting conspiracy theories. And there was one that really stuck out to me that I want to talk about. I don't know why I said out, like I'm from Degrassi, not Canadian. The tweet says, quote, "What if there are really aliens disguised as humans and they are spying on us, plotting the perfect time to strike?" And at first I was like, that's kind of dumb, but then I really thought about it. And it made me think about alien abductions. And I remember we've talked about them quite a few different times in a few different unsolved mysteries videos. And honestly, I could do a whole video on alien abductions if that's something you guys would be interested in. But alien abductions, I feel like there was a popular timeline for them to happen, and it was like before and during the 1970s, 80s vibes. I don't really hear much of alien abductions happening anymore. People have the conspiracy theory that aliens have made it to Earth, but instead of immediately trying to destroy us, they actually want to learn more about us. That's kind of what the idea of alien abduction comes from, because these people will be abducted, you know, for an hour, a few minutes, a few days, something usually in a very quick timeline, and they will remember parts of their abduction, or a UFO will be seen at the space where this happened. It seems like the aliens just wanted to learn more about us. However, if you think about it, I feel like that's not a very successful way to truly understand humans and human connection. And honestly, what better way to understand humans and human connection and relationships than becoming one? So the theory goes that aliens have come up with a way to disguise themselves to look like humans, making connections and relationships here on Earth with other humans to learn more about them. I actually kind of feel like this makes sense in a very like kind of far out, like trippy conspiracy theory kind of way. And it terrifies me, because what if people that you know are actually just aliens? Like they go home and legit take off their costume. just realized that the whole premise of Invader Zim is this conspiracy theory. Kind of interesting, and it kind of makes sense at the end of the day. Hopefully they just see us as like cute little science experiments and they want to learn more about us and understand our human connections and relationships and whatever it may be, and that they don't plan on destroying us, because I would really not like that. This theory kind of terrifies me in a general sense, because you have no way of knowing if someone is an alien or not, and even if you don't believe in aliens, you still don't have a way. You still don't. And that's really freaky. Anyway, that is it for today's video. If you guys like it, please give it a big thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think about these TikTok conspiracy theories. I would love to hear your opinions on them. But that is it. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, and subscribe for new videos every week, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.